This program is brought to you by Feng Tai, the beautiful gateway to Beijing, Beijing Capital Land, and BAIC Motor Group. Beijing, China, a modern metropolis with a history dating back 3,000 years, home to 21 million people and to the Beijing International Triathlon. This year, 2,000 entrants from around the world have gathered here in the ancient district of Feng Tai, at the foot of the city's western hills, to take on a challenging and technical course, once again led by a stellar professional field. Hello and welcome to Beijing, China. My name is Will McCloy. Alongside me, former world number one and a man with intimate first-hand knowledge of this course. He's done it 4 times. Greg Bennett. Greg, star-studded lineup this year. You're not in it, but there are plenty who are. Let's start with the men's. We've got WTS and World Cup winners. We've got Olympic and Commonwealth medalists. It doesn't get much better.
It really doesn't get much better. To have Henry Schumann here, the Olympic bronze medalist from last year, I think that's a real highlight for this race. But also to have Ryan Fisher, an Australian Olympian, and the man to beat, I believe, Cam Dye, who's been here before. He knows this tough course, and I think they're going to be trying to chase him down in the run.
Yeah, very strong third last year, so plenty of experience in the women's side as well. A diverse field. We've still got plenty of achievements from all of them, but they come from different backgrounds. It's hard to go past 2015 champ Lauren Goss.
Yes, I'd agree with you. I think Lauren Goss is the favourite going into this race, having the experience of winning here. But I think we also need to look at Paula Finley. She's a former world number one, and she's coming back into some great form. It's going to be an exciting race.
A couple of wild cards in there too, plenty to look forward to. Let's get right into it.
The Beijing International Triathlon, it looks like a great event, and that's why, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to see what the race is like. I like non-drafting type format. It's Olympic distance, so it's just perfect for me.
Beijing's been awesome so far. I was unsure what to expect coming here from Canada and the United States because the culture is so different, the language is different, the food is different. So it's sometimes hard to race in environments like that when you're so far away from home.
Yeah, I really like the race here in Beijing because of the vibe that it has. It feels like a family. It's some people that I haven't seen since either Alcatraz or since here the last year, and there's a lot of age groupers, but it's a small, tight-knit pro field, and that's just a good crew to work with.
Plenty of excitement from the professionals and plenty also from the age groupers. A huge group, over 1,500, Greg, and there are plenty of guys out there who are doing this for the first time.
Yeah, that's the benefit of this race. There's a sprint triathlon, there's an age group race right before the professionals, and plenty of age groupers starting today.
Here is the professional men's start list. Cameron Dye, third last year, held off Alistair Brownlee on the bike. Henry Schumann, a Commonwealth and Olympic medalist. And Eric Lagerstrom, 2015 champion. In the women, also a 2015 champion, Lauren Goss. Mingying Zhong, who is a great hope here locally. Plenty of support from the locals. And Paula Finley, who was a former world number one and is coming back to form.
The swim discipline is really my strong point, and it's really nice to explore one of my advantages and try and get a gap, hopefully, over the others.
Long straights with few corners or few buoys, which is normally the part that does split the race up. But in saying that, you've got guys like Henry Schumann who are really good swimmers, so it's sort of, you never really know.
应该也是游泳，因为我在练铁人三项之前也是一名游泳运动员。
All the girls racing are good swimmers, so that won't necessarily be where we make or break the race. I think it'll more come down to the bike and then the run.
All right, the waiting is over. It is race time. The pros are going through their warm-up processes. What are they thinking about at this point?
Well, at this point, they're trying to stay relaxed, but their heart rates are high, and they're just concentrating on what needs to be done to get them ready to race start.
Trying to look a lot less stressed than what they are and doing a good job of it out there. Let's have a look at the swim course. It seems the basic 1,500 metres, not a lot of chop out there. How do you attack it?
Well, it's a calm swim. You want to try and get on somebody's feet if you can. It's a long drag to the first turnaround buoy, about 700 metres, and then 700 metres back, and then a long run to transition, about 600 metres, exactly like the Escape from Alcatraz run.
Yeah, trying to replicate Escape from Alcatraz. Of course, a lot of people going through into the Escape from Alcatraz if they do well here. 50 spots on the line as they line up, getting ready to go out. the governor of Fung Tai, again welcoming the athletes to the start line, and a huge crowd as well. Plenty of interest. I've seen a lot of people walking down to have a look, whether it be family and friends of age groupers or just people who are looking forward to seeing an incredible field hit the water. They're off a clean start as well, and it's going to need to be, if they're going to catch Henry Schoeman, he has to be the favourite on the swim. He's got a very, very strong swim leg in WTS races, Olympic and Commonwealth Games. He's always in the lead pack, and there's a danger he gets away off the front.
Arguably, he's the best swimmer in the world of triathlon right now.
Here are the women. They start 30 seconds behind. Look for Lauren Goss and Paula Findlay, but also Mingying Zhang, who was a former champion swimmer, as we heard earlier on. She has been part of the Chinese swim team, and she might try and get away off the front too.
Yeah, she's going to try and get away, but with Paula Findlay and with Lauren Goss there, it's going to be pretty tough for her, because all three of those girls can swim, and Annika Jenkins is also a very formidable swimmer.
Absolutely, and we go back to the men now, and we can already see a little gap being pushed out by, I think that's Henry Schoeman at the front, as the rest of them try to go with him. It looks like they might be heading a little wide, and it looks like that's something we haven't seen before. He's hit a paddleboard, Henry Schoeman. He's had his head down. That's very unusual, and you can see how far they've gone off course. That's the women behind, so the men have given themselves an extra 50 metres or so to swim.
They have, and you know what, though? It's often worth swimming the extra 50 metres to get the draft effect. So they're actually following Henry going, I know I'm swimming a little further, but it's a little easier if I can stay on his feet.
I would be trying to take any advantage from Henry Schoeman that I can. I'll be letting him go off into the reeds and trying to cut corners as much as possible.
Well, that's one way to do it, but if you can be on his feet, you're saving a lot of energy, and those guys are saving energy. You've got Ben Shaw on his feet, but at the moment, here we are back to the women.
Yeah, Mingying Zhang, you can see a very slow, steady stroke compared to the triathletes behind her. That's more of a pool swim stroke.
Yes, a very strong pool swim stroke.
The wide shot there, as we see, it's a very foggy morning and a very still morning, so the water incredibly still. So that's got to be helping us for some fast swim times.
Yeah, and like you said, it helps the pool swimmers. So Mingying Zhang and Henry Schoeman, they're going to have a great swim today, because the guys that are used to open water swimming and the high cadence swimmers aren't going to get the chop that they might need.
Schoeman leading from Ben Shaw there, and the pack behind them, there's Ryan Fisher, I can see, and Cameron Dye as well, who are trying to stay with Shaw and with Schoeman, but Schoeman certainly pushing the pace, and as he said he would in interviews prior, that he needs to push the pace here. He knows he probably doesn't have it on the bike.
He is actually, I'm amazed to see that gap so big already. They're still on the first straightaway, heading down to the first buoy turnaround. Ben Shaw's doing well to stay on his feet, but I thought the pack might actually stay a little closer longer in the swim. So that just goes to show how fast Henry is swimming.
Very different swim styles there from Zhang, from Findlay, and I think Lauren Goss, and then a huge gap already opening up from the three women.
That's right. I think they're pushing the pace early, and I think we're going to see a race in three with those girls in the swim here. And there's some credit, you know, you want to win the swim, you want to win the bike, you want to win the run. Obviously, you want to win overall, but I think the girls will be racing to see who's the fastest swimmer as well.
As they hit the first turn buoy, Henry Schoeman opening up a big gap there from Ben Shaw. Ben, not known to be an incredible swimmer, so he'll be putting in big effort to try and stay with Schoeman. Back there, we can see three in Fisher, Lagerstrom and Dye.
Well, that's right. I think everybody's trying to just hold the gaps, and I'm amazed to see that gap that Henry has at the first swim buoy turnaround at 700 metres. There's a good chance that's going to really blow out a lot bigger than we'd anticipated.
The pace always very high here at the Beijing International Triathlon, and it's quite late on in the season, at a packed part of the season. So coming in with a solid feeling in your body, good physicality and good prep and lead up is very important.
Well, that's it. And as we look at the three girls make their turnaround here, talking about girls not having a good lead up, we know Paula Findlay's on her way back to great shape. It's been since 2010 and 11 she had a big WTS wins, but she's on her way back up to really, I think, great form.
Schoeman turning the second buoy and heading back for home as well, so he's past the halfway mark of the swim leg, and you can see the gap that he's already pulled out. Hasn't been in Beijing since you watched his brother race in the pool, in the water cube at the 2008 Olympics, so he's clearly enjoying his time back here.
Well, that's it. He comes from an amazing swimming family, with his brother representing South Africa in both 08 and 12 Olympics. Henry's dad actually coaches him, so it's in the family.
Absolutely, as the women turn on the second buoy as well. And you can see both fields starting to string out a little bit, as we expected the pace to be pushed from the beginning here, because as you can see, that water is perfect conditions for swimming.
Yeah, and if you're a swimmer, you really need to make the most of it. You need to create the gaps if you can. Oh, and Henry Schumann checking back to see the gap he's got, to see, is it worthwhile that I keep putting my head down and keep trying to open a bigger gap? And there he goes.
Just throwing in a few backstrokes there. That's when you know you're comfortable in the water.
I know, and his backstroke's probably not much that slower than his freestyle. He's absolutely, look at that gap. That's Ben Shaw back about probably 50 meters now. We're probably looking at about 25, 30-second gap already as they swim back.
The age groupers in the water now as well. It's such an honour, I imagine, for the age groupers to race alongside. You can look up, look across, and on the way back you see an Olympic medalist.
Well, that's the beauty of our sport. It's one where everybody gets to do the same course together at the same time. The age groupers always race with the pros, and there's a real camaraderie between both the professionals and the age groupers.
The chasing group there of Fisher, Dye and Lagerstrom, and you can see a very large gap to Ben Shaw and then an even bigger one to Henry Schumann, who's swimming a lot wider on the course but has somehow opened up what has to be a 30-second gap at this stage.
This is amazing. The guys that he's swimming away from are some of the best swimmers in the world of triathlon. I'm so glad I'm not racing. These guys, I would be a minute behind Cam Dye, and he's losing time to Henry Schumann. That just shows how good of a swimmer this guy is.
All week you've been talking up about how you want to get back in the water. You've changed your mind now.
Oh, mate, I do not want to be out there anymore. And there's the lead women, all three of them staying very close together, like I mentioned, trying to get that draft, trying to save some energy.
As we go back to the men, and then nearing the end of the swim, we're not too far away now, as we can see. Shaw has come back to the pack a little bit, but Schumann just keeps powering on. He's incredibly light and an incredibly economical stroke.
He's a beautiful looking swimmer, high cadence, and he swims very efficiently.
The age group is still pouring into Garden Expo Lake. Fantastic conditions still, and we see some varying strokes out there.
Well, they're making their way through it. I mean, there is a cut-off time for the swim, but so long as they keep moving, they'll make the cut-off.
The group of three still together for the women. Meng Yin Zhong leading Paula Findlay and Lauren Goss. And it looks like Paula and Lauren are mostly just looking to stay in the slipstream and hold on and keep them in her sights.
That's right. Happy to stay in the slipstream, save as much energy as you can, and just be as efficient as you can in the swim.
Henry having a lonely swim out there as he comes to the final right-hand turn, and he'll come up onto the dock, and then it'll be a 680 metre. They call it a warm-up run up to transition one, as we say, just like Escape from Alcatraz, but I assume they're pretty warm by that.
Oh no, this is a part of the race. There's no warm-up to it. It's Henry's done the work in the swim. He doesn't want to give back anything in this run. He's making the final turn now. He's already thinking about, okay, how can I run as quickly as I can to the bike and keep extending this gap that I've already got.
All right, the group of chase athletes there trying to close down that gap in the final couple of 100 metres of the swim, but it's going to be very tough to catch Henry Schumann before we arrive at transition one. The women are bunched up, and it's going to be a very interesting run as they head up to transition.
And again, like I said, I think the run is a good opportunity to try and even break the race up a little bit more.
Schumann now coming up onto the dock, and they've had the option of shoes on or off, but it should be a barefoot run. I think they're going to take, I didn't see any shoes down there, a barefoot run up to T1, something different.
You don't want to waste your time. It's get going. Your feet will be a bit sore at the end of the day, but honestly, it's worth saving, 3 to 5 seconds that it would have taken to put your shoes on. And there goes Henry. He is not waiting to put shoes on, and he's flat out already.
A huge crowd and a great round of applause as Ben Shaw looks a little tentative. He's obviously pushed himself very hard to stay with Henry as he heads up onto the dock as well. A little gap from the three in the chase pack who haven't been able to shake each other all day.
No, and they're going to try and probably stay close together throughout this run, and then especially onto the bike.
The women come into the final turn buoy, and it's still Meng Yin Zhong. It's going to be fantastic if a local Chinese athlete, there'll be a huge roar of applause if she can lead them out of the water.
And that's just fantastic for China. It'll be the first time they've had a Chinese girl lead out the professional women.
Up front, Henry Schumann wasting no time whatsoever on that 680 metre run up to transition. He's an incredibly disciplined athlete. He says that his year this year hasn't been up to his standards, but he's had 3 WTS top 5s.
He's having an outstanding year. He is the future of the sport. He's 25 years of age, and I think there's a great opportunity ahead of him.
Zhong now about to come out of the water. She's had a very, very solid swim leg. Fantastic to see, as we said. And Paula Findlay and Lauren Goss haven't been split during the entire time. Goss obviously has the benefit of experience here, but Paula, as we've talked about, has been getting better and better.
Yes, and you could hear the crowd actually roar as she came out of the water, the first Chinese girl to lead the swim.
Very, very interesting transition here. Quite a long run up underneath the bridge. It's something quite unique to this race.
It's a fantastic transition. It's actually under shelter if there was any rain. There's no rain today. But it really is quite an amazing under all that concrete structure above us. But transition matters now. You can see Ben Shaw trying to get his speed suit off, trying to get that helmet on quickly. This really matters. These guys practice this a lot because you don't want to give a couple of seconds up if you don't need to.
Yeah, everyone doing it slightly differently, but trying to stay calm under what would be very high heart rates as Ben Shaw leads the chasing pack out from Cameron Dye, Ryan Fisher. We saw Eric Lagerstrom coming there as well. So we could see a very, very interesting, very tight men's bike course.
Yes, it's going to be tight. They're very close together now. But let's have a look at the swim splits. And here we are, Henry Schumann with a great swim, opening up 40 seconds to Ben Shaw, Ryan Fisher and Cam Dye and Eric Lagerstrom all closely following together.
Yeah, Zhu Fang, the Chinese athlete, lost a little bit of time in transition. So unfortunate for him. We will catch up with him later on as the women come in. Paula Findlay, Lauren Goss, Meng Yin Zhong, the three of them all together. They haven't been split all day, and we hope the transitions are quick for all of them too.
Yeah, the transitions are critical here, and Meng Yin Zhong's already got her helmet on, she's already grabbed a bike, her shoes are on the bike, and she's away, which is really surprising. She's already putting a little bit of time into these two.
She's certainly the wild card in this race, and she's at the top of the swim times, 19:30. Findlay and Goss right there with them, as we've been speaking about. Annika Jenkins from New Zealand a little bit further back from Jackie Thistleton, and the Hong Kong athlete Leanne Zito. We'll take a break right now. When we come back, we'll be all about the bike leg here at the Beijing International Triathlon. It's not just the lure of a $100,000 purse that has drawn professionals from around the world. Feng Tai and the wider Beijing area is steeped in China's unique culture, and in the week leading up to the event, the athletes took in sights including the famous Golden Buddha atop Qianling Mountain, the Olympic precinct, the Forbidden City, and the city's famous silk markets. It's been a fantastic week culturally for all the athletes and something very different to what they're used to, Greg.
This race is very special for that reason. The fact that athletes can come from all around the world, get to know each other a little bit, enjoy some of the culture, and really just get to know each other in an environment that isn't as competitive as a race. And that's what has always brought these athletes coming back and back. It's not just the race.
A fantastic informal setting on the Saturday of race weekend. The sprint race was on as well. 500 athletes who were just getting into triathlon in varying states of preparation, I would say, taking on a shortened course, having a lot of fun.
The sprint race is a really unique opportunity for beginners to just experience the sport of triathlon and try and bring more people in from China to see what the sport of triathlon is all about. They'll do a 750-metre swim, a 20-kilometre bike and a 5-kilometre run. And as you can see, the professionals came out to hand out the medals for all these athletes to have their day.
Let's have a look at the bike course right now.
This bike course, I'm going to go out on a limb, is probably one of the best bike courses in the entire world. They start in the Garden Expo Park for the first 5 kilometres, and then it's open roads, wide open flat for the next sort of 5 to 10 kilometres. And this bit is very, very quick. Then as we get through the 10-kilometre mark, it starts to become a little bit more technical, and we then have a long climb up to the Qianling Mountain turnaround point at just past the 20-kilometre mark. And then it's a very, very quick descent. And this is where you've got to be careful and keep concentrating, especially around this part of the course as we go through the village and onto the man-made road, especially for this race at around the 30-kilometre mark. You've got to keep your wits about you. But then you back out onto the open roads again, and it's flat and fast all the way back through to transition.
Plenty for the athletes to think about and plenty to look forward to. But first up, it's a couple of flat kilometres through the Garden Expo Park, and Henry Schumann is out there right now all by himself, giving himself a chance to get some blood into the legs. It's been a very fast swim for him, just to sort everything out and get into a rhythm.
That's right, you see him there just putting his feet into his shoes. He's now setting up for the first corner of the race really, and he's got a nice gap on the guys chasing him. And so that does allow him some freedom in how fast he needs to go right now.
It's going to be a really tight race. There's going to be a lot of there will be gaps forming at certain points, but I don't think they're ever going to be such big gaps that that they can't be overcome, and it's going to be very dramatic. This is just like the most fair bike course that really tests your ability to put out power and be uncomfortable for a long period of time. There's nowhere to hide.
You can't get lost too much down in your aero bars, and because I'm not really comfortable and used to a time trial bike, I think I'll be okay at staying focused. I'll be pretty alert the whole time. So yeah, there's always, you never know what's going to come in front of you, so you always have to be aware for that.
Plenty of X factors out there on the bike, but the part through the Expo Park at least is nice wide roads, as we can see. Each of the athletes getting nicely into their work at the start of the bikes. We can see the BAIC lead car there doing a great job, and thank you to BAIC for their continued support of the Beijing International Triathlon. As we move out onto the wide boulevards that you spoke about, Greg, and Henry Schoeman maintaining his lead and just maybe conserving just a little bit, knowing that he's going to need plenty on the run later on.
Here he gets to see at this turnaround how much of a gap he actually has, because at this point he still wouldn't know what kind of damage he's done in the swim and the short run to transition. So right now he can look back, see a group of 4 chasing him and realize he's got about a 30 to 40 second meter gap, as you see Cam Dye leading this group around the first U-turn that they'll do, heading out onto these open highways that is really, really fast and a lot of fun. And that's a great shot on the back of Cam's bike. You'll see them bunch up a little bit as they come into the corners, but they'll go back out and hold the 7 meter gap that they're required to do.
The number 14 there of Paula Findlay, she's on the bike as well and in the Garden Expo Park, and she's a very strong biker and she shouldn't have too much of a problem maintaining or extending a gap. But as you can see there, Lauren Goss isn't too far behind, and Meng Yinzhong as well. But 3 strong bikers, and it's hard to know exactly how this women's race is going to play out from this point.
Well, it looks at this point as though Paula has opened just a slight gap, which I'm actually very surprised about. So she's actually giving herself a great opportunity here and must have had a race plan where she thought, you know what, the first 5 to 10K of this bike, I'm going to see if I can create a result early in this race. And I did not see any of the girls behind her as she came out of that corner, and she looks fantastic on her bike. She's very comfortable. She prepares for this first U-turn like the boys just did a moment ago, and she'll get an opportunity to see if she has much of a gap.
Yeah, very tentative around that corner. Of course, it's a long 40 kilometres. Each of the equipment the girls have got a different. Meng Yinzhong has a different bike. The girls on TT bikes. I mean, what kind of a decision is that? Would you choose always a TT bike in these conditions?
Always a TT bike, especially for this race. There's enough of this course, there's probably 20 to 25 kilometres of this race where you're going to be down and getting as aerodynamic as you can. And when you get as aerodynamic as you can, you're going to be saving a lot of wattage. And like you said, Meng Yinzhong is there on a road bike. She does have the little clip-on aerodynamic bars that she'll be able to hop down and get a little bit more aerodynamic, but that bike setup of hers is probably not going to be as fast as the girls in front of her.
Yeah, the experience showing there with Findlay and Goss really putting the kilometres in early on, as Henry Schoeman looks fantastic on the bike, just as he does in the swim. He's very economical once again.
Yes, incredibly efficient and very aerodynamic. He's only 25 years of age, but last year winning the Olympic bronze medal, which was an incredible breakthrough for his career, but then he backed it up, winning the ITU Grand Final in Mexico. And this young guy is the future of our sport.
100%. He's an incredibly disciplined athlete. He never misses a training session. He always trains for the full time, every time. He's had 2 World Cup podiums this year, and as I said, 3 WTS top 10s, but he is so disciplined that he doesn't accept that as a good year.
Look, he's only a small guy, 56 kilograms, but I think his engine to chassis ratio is just massive. And when I mean his engine, I mean his heart and lungs are absolutely incredible. But here's the chase group. They're keeping their 7 meters apart. They're staying aerodynamic. As you can see, Eric Lagerstrom looks phenomenal on a bike as well.
Back to the women and the distinctive green shoes of Paula Findlay. She's just doing some running repairs, maybe some Velcro work, and it's always tough to get everything perfect out of transition, but these nice wide roads before we head into the mountains are a good chance to get all the adjustments made. That's a very tentative corner there from Paula. She's obviously looking to protect a lead, and those roads are a little bit wet.
Yes, the roads are a little wet, and you've got to be especially careful of those white lines. And as you can see, the guys here trying to keep the 7 meters apart, making sure they don't get in trouble for drafting. You've got to keep a gap between you. You can't be right on their wheel. Cam Dye now punishing the front of the race, but as you can see, here comes Ryan Fisher with a big surge on one of the small hills that leads us towards the turnaround.
Yeah, Ryan doing very well in Rio, and he was selected off the back of his technical skills with the bike on what was a very hilly Copacabana course. And as soon as we get a little bit of incline, even though we're still on the wide roads, it's going to get much more hectic in a second. He's already making a big charge, and he's gone straight past Cam Dye, who we've been talking about the whole time as being the strongest on the bike.
That's quite a statement, actually. I think you've got Cam up the front of the race trying to say, hey, I'm the strong biker here. But here comes the young 26-year-old, 2016 Olympian for Australia, and the Australian Ninja Warrior last year. And anybody who knows much about Ninja Warrior is kind of an obstacle course racing, and he gave that a go, and he might have come apart a little bit, but he did pretty well at that.
Yeah, he needed about an extra foot in height, I think, to make it through that course, but he did very well representing triathlon in that one. As we head back to the leader of the women's race, and she's been the leader ever since we came out of transition, Paula Finlay, who looks, as she hits a little bump there, she looks very comfortable though on the bike. And Lauren Goss, I think we'll be able to see the gap there is probably a few hundred metres at this point. Lauren, obviously experienced, she knows how this race is going to play out. And a little bit further back on the road bike, as we spoke about, is Meng Ying Zhong, who looks like she's up out of the saddle and maybe losing a little ground to the two girls who have a fair bit more experience.
Yeah, Meng Ying Zhong, 27 years of age, like we said earlier, former professional swimmer, and that's how she was able to open up the gap earlier there. She's a two-time Chinese Triathlon League winner, which means she knows how to win races, but I think she's up against girls that are probably a little bit more experienced, but she's giving it a great go today.
Henry Schoeman now arriving at around the 10-kilometre mark as he heads into the narrower roads, and just a near miss there. That's that Beijing or China X factor we're talking about. Anything can happen. You've got to keep your head up.
You really do have to keep your wits about you, and he was making his way into one of the more technical parts of the bike course, and he would have been probably more aware of that as well. But here we are back to Paula Finlay, who looks comfortable on a bike, and I think with time we could maybe get a little bit more aerodynamic, but she does look very comfortable and very strong on it.
Aerodynamic's a huge part when you're racing at this kind of speed across such a long stretch. 28 years of age. Back in her 21 years of age, she was world number one after winning 5 World Triathlon Series events in a row, 2 at the end of 2010 and 3 at the start of 2011. She's had a bit of a rough time since then.
But back with the men's chase group, on board with Ryan Fisher's camera, you can see a nice separation. And this is Henry Schoeman, who's still holding his gap out in front. We're probably about 15 kilometres into the bike, and you can see these are tighter, windier roads here. You've got to keep up with your wits about you because you never know what's going to be around the next corner.
Yeah, the group of 4 here, obviously they've got to stay 3 bike lengths apart. One of the great non-drafting races left, a diminishing amount of non-drafting races on the Olympic distance on the calendar now. They're all the minimum amount apart, trying to give themselves the best chance to chase down Henry Schoeman as early as possible and potentially drop him as well.
Well, that's the idea. You want to catch the leader as quickly as you can. And back to the women, Paula Finlay's having an amazing start to this bike ride. I'm very impressed with the way she's attacked early on the bike on the open roads. She's given herself a chance now to be a little bit calmer, a little bit patient through some of this technical area.
Back to the men now, and we can see the minimum amount is 3 bike lengths between each of them, so that really hurts how much they can work together to chase down Henry Schoeman, but they are as close as they can possibly be as they do attempt to work together and potentially drop him on the bike because they know they're going to need plenty of time on the run if they're going to hold him off.
Well, as you can see now, they're actually on the climb. It's a decent climb that it's not too steep, but it is one that will burn the legs a little bit. Henry Schoeman still holding his lead, and I think this might be a part of his game plan. If I can hold him off to the turnaround, maybe, just maybe, I can stay with them to the end of the bike.
Certainly that's the way to do it, get a rest on the way down. As Paula Finlay then is at the bottom of the climb as well, you can see she's trying not to show too much pain on her face, but you can tell that there's a burn there as she's trying to hold off Lauren Goss.
And that's Henry Schoeman. They've got him. They've caught him before the turnaround, and so he's probably going to want to hold him until the turnaround so he can get behind them on the descent. And now it's about positioning. They're all trying to figure out, where do I want to be descending down this hill? Do I want to lead because I'm confident in my descending, or do I want to sit back and watch the other guys to go down the hill and watch their cornering? Because they're going to be hitting some pretty high speeds down here. I'd imagine around 70, 80 kilometers an hour. And it's Ryan Fisher who takes them around, like you mentioned earlier, a very good technical rider, and is obviously confident in leading them down this fast course.
A little bit of a gap there back to Ben Shaw. The 3 of them certainly, now having caught Henry, will be thinking we should be able to drop him and at least gives ourselves the top 3 positions. They won't want to drag Henry with them.
And Paula Finlay now making her way up the hill as well, and she'll get to the turnaround in only a matter of minutes. And when she does, she'll have a great opportunity to see the kind of damage she's done to this point of the bike. And you know, this is over halfway now she's approaching.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit demoralising for her going up quite slowly when she sees the guys come scooting down past her in just a second. It's a very tough and very technical descent, as we've talked about, but the road is drying up considerably, which will help them on the way down here.
Yeah, that's correct. You can see Ben Shaw at the back of that pack, just trying to make sure he's not on Henry's wheel too closely.
There we go, Ryan Fisher leading the men on the way down as Paula moves her way upwards towards the turnaround point. Ryan Fisher loves that explosive crit type ride, and you can see he's got plenty of power in his legs, and he's not coasting down that hill.
He looks good, but here's Paula at the turnaround mark. This is the part she's been looking for now for the last sort of 20 minutes of the bike, and she'll get a good chance in a moment to see who is behind her.
Absolutely, Lauren Goss not taking too much time out of it. Paula certainly training smarter after all of her injury issues, and the same can be said for the smarts of these guys on the bike. They are making sure that they don't, they use the rules to their maximum advantage, gap the rest of the field and make sure it'll be a race in 4 when they arrive at the run. Ryan Fisher leading the way. No, not leading the way at the moment. That's Cam Dye back in front, and we expected that from the beginning. Cam will know that if he doesn't have a gap when he comes into transition, he will struggle on the run, but he's doing his best to stretch the field out as much as possible.
And here comes Lauren Goss to the turnaround. She would have seen Paula coming down the hill at a rapid rate, and she's making the turnaround, and I don't know if she's looking a little deflated, but the race is not over. We know her strength is the run, and she's just got to keep working that bike.
Yeah, a little shake of the head there. She's 2 minutes back from Paula Fidlay, which is quite a large gap. Paula doing incredibly well as the lead male, Cameron Dye, with Ryan Fisher behind him, comes through the iconic tunnel there and back through one of the villages. Paula Fidlay doing her best to stay within her limits. We know that she's got plenty of experience now, but maintain that gap. She's getting a look at where everyone is.
Exactly, and you saw a little bit of trepidation around that corner. Some of these corners are a little blind when you come down at such a rapid rate that you actually have to be very cautious. Now, this is the road that they've made specifically for this race, and you can see it's beautiful smooth road and a tiny going past the village. And this is not an easy part of the course. You must keep your wits about you. It's technical, there's a few climbs in it, and you can see Cam Dye's got to drop back a little bit there.
Paula coming through the tunnel now. She has 2 minutes on Lauren Goss, with Meng Ying Zhong a further minute behind. So quite a strung out course. Annika Jenkins and Jackie Thistleton are also a further minute or 2 back. So it's a lonely race for some of these girls, which brings with it its own sort of mental hardships when you don't have anyone to gauge yourself against.
Absolutely, it is an individual time trial. It happens to be that we have all the men together, but this race should be a complete individual time trial, but they are playing within the rules. It is harder for the guy in the front breaking the wind, and all the others are close behind him.
Paula Fidlay now on that same road we were just talking about, built specifically for this event. And it is a difficult one. I remember driving the course earlier in the week, and there's plenty of swift downhills with very tight turns at the bottom, which is dangerous for the age groupers, dangerous for anyone who's not paying attention. And
you can see the rapid rate the men are at now. They're back onto the open roads. It's very quick and open, and they can put their heads down and really get... Whoa!
Paula Fidlay looks like she slipped forward off the bars. And that is a huge accident. She's left a fair bit of skin on the road there. We hope her bike is okay. She seems to be getting it back up off the ground, but that lead could be evaporating, and it is evaporating as we speak. She looks like she's back on the bike. Plenty of blood there, though.
I am not sure what happened there, Will. She was going along the straight open road, and I think she's slipped off her handlebars. It is humid, it is a little wet, and I think she's just completely slipped off the front of the bike.
That is a very, very tough break for Paula Fidlay. She's still in the lead, but how much we don't know by at this point. Lauren Goss will have taken a fair chunk out. We don't know how much pain she's in as well. As the men are doing battle, Ryan Fisher and Cam Dye swapping the leads. Lauren Goss obviously won't know that has happened because Paula was out of sight at that point, so she'll just be doing her best to stay in touch.
Like I said, the race is never over until it's over, and the men now will be starting to think about the run. They're about 5 kilometers to the transition too. And as they approach the run, they'll be thinking about, I don't want to do too much on the bike. They make the turn into, they've probably got about 2 kilometers to go now. Cam Dye leads them around, closely followed by Ryan Fisher. And I think now they're thinking, who's got the fastest legs for the run?
Back into Garden Expo Park, and Henry Schoeman, after having had quite a big lead and seeing it evaporate on the bike, will know that he has a great run. Ben Shaw also has a great run. I've seen him be described before as the White Kenyan. I think he described himself as that. He knows he's got a great run. He's 191 centimetres tall. He's got a black belt in Taekwondo. He's a very multi-talented athlete, and those two guys would be my pick for the two on the run, but you just don't know. This race is throwing up all sorts of different combinations already as they come into T2.
And T2 is everything for this run now. You've got to make sure you're quick. You can't afford to give up 2 seconds, 3 seconds. It's not worth it. And there's Ryan Fisher making a mistake with his racking of his bike. He's definitely given up 3 or 4 seconds there. And that you cannot afford. Because the fact is they are now sprinting out onto the run course and every second matters.
That is exactly right. Every second does matter. Ben Shaw leading with a final burst into transition 2 from Ryan Fisher, Cameron Guy, Henry Schumann. All great transitions. Actually, Ryan lost a little bit of time there. Eric Lagerstrom not too far away, so we know he's got the experience to cover that gap as we see Paula Fidlay, the first girl into transition.
Yeah, you can see the blood on her knees as she just got off the bike there.
Paula Finlay, quite a gap now. We can see 2 minutes and 50 seconds back to Lauren Gosman and Zhong in third, having a lonely race. Jackie Christopher and Annika Jenkins and Leanne Sito rounding out the top 6 professional women. So quite a spread out field for the women. We'll take a break right now. We'll be back with the money leg, the run on the Beijing International Triathlon. Now in its 6th year, the growth of the Beijing International Triathlon represents the Chinese people's embrace of multisports. It's getting bigger year on year. Thousands of athletes from across China and from 36 countries around the world descend on Fengtai to meet some of their idols, get some posters signed, and to spend some time with them at the welcome party the Fengtai government puts on for both the professional athletes and the age groupers as well. It's really a great weekend of culture and of competition, which each and every one of the age groupers and of the professionals enjoy year on year.
The race keeps changing every year in a good way. So I think from a triathlete perspective, there's always something new to experience. For this course, I think it's very technical, but also the view is very beautiful. So I think it's both a challenging and a very rewarding experience for racing in this race.
So I think overall race strategy went really well. I'm so happy. Good man. And I think some of my teammates did really well.
Yeah.
I think they finished top 20 in the race. I'm so happy for them.
The run around the park's great, through the pagoda, up the mountain, through the stairs. I mean, there's just so many unique things about this race. But again, you know, as I said, I'm a Beijinger, and this is our race. You know, like this is a race that, you know, throughout the whole year, this is the one sort of in the calendar that you really want to do well at.
Great day out, great race. I mean, that run though, oh, holy schmoly. I mean, as soon as you hit those stairs at 4K, it's just, you're just trying to hold on for your life. And it's just, yeah, fun day out. Not the best result, a little bit slower than last year, but still awesome fun.
A fun and challenging day out for amateurs and pros alike. Let's take on the run course right now. Greg, take us through it.
Well, the first 2 kilometres of the run course are mostly flat, but then you make your way back down to the water and come up about 100 stairs, and then you make your way to the pagoda where you have the 240 stairs up, and again the 240 stairs down. It's a very demanding run course with constant stairs, constant hills, but it's always entertaining.
Scenic, technical and tough. Let's hear what the athletes have to say about it.
It's got everything. It's flat, hilly, stairs. And the run, I don't think you can be a favourite for the run here. It's just going to be whoever's got the best survival legs almost.
You don't want to hit the stairs and just be like looking up at those things. So you kind of have to pace it well, because you got to account for that spike there in the middle, not blow your heart rate at any point, all the while, while doing crazy amount of stairs.
I knew there were stairs in it, but I wasn't sure how many there was until someone counted out 300 and something, and probably should have thrown that into the training a little bit. But I think, you know, it's anything different like that keeps the race exciting, and this race has so many different aspects like that.
The run course here is really diverse. I think it goes by really fast. There's different challenges throughout the 10K. There's 3 sets of stairs, so it's pretty cool. The last 2K is really hard, so I hope to not be in like a sprint finish there, because it would be pretty tough.
Tough is certainly the word for it, and Henry Schumann, well, he's not making it look too tough. He's already opened up what is a sizable lead when you consider how close they came out of transition. They're maybe at a 1,500 metre mark or so, and he's already opened up what would be, a 50 metre gap?
Exactly, and that 50 metre gap, most of that would have been the transition 2. We saw Ryan Fisher be a little bit slow in transition 2, and so that gap was immediate, and that's hard for him to come back from.
Cameron Dye digging deep as well, and he's trying to stay in touch with the leaders. It's so good to see such a close foot race between these guys, and each one of them is in peak condition. Ryan Fisher has had a bit of a different year this year. He's done 70.3 races. He's only done 4 of them. He hasn't been on the ITU circuit, and at this stage of the season, he says he's feeling a lot fresher, and you can tell.
Yes, and here we are with the women's leader, Paula Finley, also on that first section of the run course, which is about the flattest part of this entire run. She's settling into a rhythm. She probably would have been told that she has a certain gap. I'd imagine somebody's yelled out from the crowd that she has a bit of a gap so she can take her time.
Such a gutsy run. Eric Lagerstrom has run down Cameron Dye. We know he came into transition a little bit back. He's run down Cameron, he's on the toes of Ben Shaw, and the 2015 champion certainly leaving it late for his run.
Well, that's it. He's won here before. He knows what it takes, and he would have the eye on the prize still. He wants to win this race. He'd still be able to see Henry Schumann up in front, and he wants to... Oh, Paula Finley looking a little confused on where to go there, but the officials on the course telling her to go down the hill. This is right at the 2-kilometre mark.
Plenty of blood on the knees as she runs past another section of beautiful Garden Expo Park. It's really in bloom at this time of year. Probably not what you expect from Beijing when you come here, but it's beautiful, open, wide spaces, and the athletes love racing.
This is one of the most spectacular run courses anywhere in the world running through the park.
Meng Yingzhong digging very deep as well. She's obviously lost touch a little bit with the top two, but she's got a very strong young leg. You can see she's a very strong athlete and with a great engine.
Well, this is the best we've ever seen one of the Chinese girls perform in this race, and this is spectacular. She's running in third against a very, very tough field of competitors.
Certainly if she holds on for third, that is one of the best results of a Chinese competitor, as we see Henry Schumann hitting the steps, and they seem a little uneven, which must be tough for your cadence up those steps.
Exactly. You see him have a quick look behind there just to see what kind of a gap he does have. He's trying to figure out how hard he has to go right now. He wants to try and build up a big enough lead right now so when he gets to the big stairs, he doesn't have to work them as hard.
Yeah, he doesn't look, he never shows the pain on his face, Henry Schumann. He always keeps himself very frosty on the face, as we see Ryan Fisher, who's not too far behind, certainly keeping in touch. As you can see right in the distance there was Schumann, as Ben Shaw uses those long legs to power up the steps himself.
Yeah, they can all still see each other. You see Eric Lagerstrom and Cam Dye, they'll be able to see Ben Shaw right in front of him, and Ben can see the other guys in front of him.
Very, very different race for Paula Finlay. She hasn't seen anyone for hours.
Well,
really?
this is how you want to do a race. I mean, there's no better feeling than having a few-minute lead off the bike and being able to be comfortable on the run.
Here, Henry's going to hit the proper stairs, 240 up to the top of the pagoda, and he's hit them very fast early, but no doubt he hasn't got too much left in the tank, and this is going to get difficult.
It's not just these stairs, it's a combination of doing the swim, the bike, and all the running before the stairs. It's one thing to go out and run those stairs with fresh legs, but you're getting there already very exhausted. As Paula Finley has just done her first lot of stairs and makes her way probably about another kilometre to the big set of stairs that we all talk about.
Hugely gutsy race from Paula Finlay. She put 2 minutes 50 on Lauren Goss, including the accident, which is a huge bike run from ahead of a former winner. And that's to add to the gap that she already had, and plenty of blood pouring out of those knees. So she'll be hurting, as is Henry Schumann, as predicted. Those stairs are tough, and they come in little sections of 4 or 5 at this point, which is very, very hard.
Look, I look at him walking up those stairs, and I'd love to say, what's he doing walking? But I have never, ever completed the full run myself on those stairs. You get to a point where your legs just give out, and you've got to be careful. You don't want to trip on your face as you go up, and sometimes the best idea is just to take a few seconds break, get your breath back, and if you need to walk for a second. But Ryan Fisher's making it look rather easy, and maybe even taking a little bit out of that lead.
You make it sound like the best idea, make it sound like you have a choice. By that stage, you don't have a choice. You've got to take a few seconds.
There's no choice. Eric Lagerstrom has moved up into third now, and he's the experienced guy on this course. He knows these stairs. He's won this race before by utilising these stairs to his weapon.
Past the 4-kilometre mark, Paula Finlay, so she's not too far from the stairs herself. There's a nice long flat run, but each of the athletes, having had a look at the run course, they'd heard so much about the stairs beforehand, they didn't realise how much work they had to do to get to the stairs, which means that, you know, we see the pain of those guys once they get there.
And now Henry Schumann making his way around the pagoda, up around the top there. It's actually very technical running, quite hilly, and even more stairs as he runs around there. There's Ben Shaw also having to walk. I don't mean to laugh because I myself have walked on those stairs. It is brutally tough.
That's a wonderful shot of the pagoda there, one of the unique structures here in Beijing. There's so much to love about this. Technically, Henry Schumann nearly hurts himself on the way down. They are tough. I mean, those legs are jelly. And when you're hitting them 2 or 3 at a time, you have to go quick because people can take time out of you down there if they're braver.
Well, that's just it. You can win or lose the race going up these stairs, but you can definitely lose it if you come down the stairs and you fall. Like he almost had a massive fall there. And you don't want to be doing that with about only 2.5 kilometres to go in the run.
Yeah, a little reality check for our race leader as Paula Findlay, our women's race leader, decides to hit the stairs as well. Be interesting to see how much power she's got. She's obviously having a hugely gutsy race with the blood pouring out of the front of her knee. She seems to be ignoring that quite well and, if anything, extending her lead.
Well, that's just it. And look at Ryan Fisher come down the stairs. Very agile, like we mentioned earlier. He's been on the Ninja Warrior show. He's got a lot of agility. He's very quick on the down. And I'm sure he can still probably see Henry Schumann just in the distance and hasn't given up on the chance of maybe winning this race.
Absolutely. Paula taking the stairs one at a time at this point. I mean, there's something to be said for maybe doing that instead of going 3 at a time for half and walking the rest, I suppose. But Eric Lagerstrom, we can tell that he's done this before because he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, he's going down crab style, it looks like, side on.
Is that what we call that, crab style?
Well, I'm making it up as we go, but he definitely was very, very quick.
Lauren Goss labouring up the stairs, as we've seen almost all the athletes do once they reach this point in the elevation, and Meng Yingzhong, despite being a very strong athlete, as we can tell, is doing the same thing, hands on the knees. It's been a very tough outing, a very tough afternoon, and each of them are digging very deep at this point.
Yes, you can see Paula Findlay coming around the top of the pagoda there. It's actually a fair bit of work still to go. You think, oh, I've made it to the top of the stairs and now I've just got to come back down. But around the top here, it's up and down and twisty and turns and plenty of stairs up there.
Certainly the benefit of experience and having run this course before will play into help mentally, but now we're back on the flat and we're heading towards the end of this race.
Yes, with only a couple of kilometres to go, they're all looking at each other. Eric Lagerstrom would be able to see Ryan Fisher up the road there. Ryan would be able to see Henry Schumann, and they're still in hope of maybe having the win.
It just shows you how tough this course is, with Lauren Goss looking a little bit in pain. I mean, she's an Escape from Alcatraz winner and reigning champ. She won by 54 seconds. She's had 70.3 victories, and you can tell this is hurting her, as it is Paula Findlay as well, who's very tentative down these steps. She's already tasted tarmac once.
Yeah, she doesn't need to fall again, but we're back with the leader looking very efficient. Henry Schumann really looks amazing as he runs. He's worked very hard on his run for the last 5 to 10 years, and him and his dad should be congratulated on the way that they've worked on his biomechanics and looks so good as he does.
Yeah, and just tapered towards the end of the year. He had a great time this last September, and he's doing the same thing here as our lead age group athlete. Passes and goes for the high five, but Lauren Goss is too deep to be worried about that.
Yeah, she's exhausted, and here we are back with Schumann, and he has a quick look over his shoulder just to see what kind of a gap he has as he runs down into the quarry.
Yeah, a bit of a relief, but that is a very steep part of the course, so that has its own tax on your body, like going downstairs, going down a very steep part of the hill. Doesn't look as steep on television as Lian Sito passes Meng Yingzhong. She knows she's got a long way to go to catch up, but Meng Ying coming down those steps quite slowly, as opposed to Ryan Fisher, who's really trying to punch it down there, and that's hard on the joints after such a long race.
At this point of the race, with probably about a kilometre to go, these guys are now starting to think, I just want to hold my position. There's enough of a gap between Henry Schumann and Ryan Fisher and Eric Lagerstrom that now they're just worried about keeping their place on the podium.
And that's exactly what Paula Findlay will be thinking about, a $20,000 US first prize. She's been through pain, both physical and emotional. She heads towards the quarry section of the course, which is very up and down, but having been through all of that and now on the flat on the way home, not too far away, maybe a kilometre or less, he has a look over his shoulder, Henry Schumann to Ryan Fisher, and that is quite a large gap, probably about 20 seconds or maybe a little more.
Yes, and the race point now, they can see the finish almost is just to the right of screen, and they start to relax and realise that they're all in their spots and they're going to maintain those positions.
Paula Findlay pushing it through the quarry section of the course. She'll be hitting that flat spot in a couple of minutes as well, but as we move back, and we can see Henry Schumann heading towards the finish line, hands in the air. South Africa's Henry Schumann, Olympic bronze medalist, Commonwealth Games silver medalist, and now winner of the 6th International Beijing Triathlon. A huge run from him to get home from Ryan Fisher, who dug very deep. The Australian as well comes in second and wins $10,000 for his trouble. Plenty of love between those two athletes after what was a very, very difficult race. And Eric Lagerstrom with a great run. He started out of transition in 5th. He ran down Cameron Dyer, he ran down Ben Shaw, and he is our final podium getter. Henry Schumann winning in the end for 25 seconds ahead of Brian Fisher, with Eric Lagerstrom a further minute and 1 second back. Ben Shaw, Cameron Dye, Ju Fang, 6 superb athletes rounding out our professional field.
A little bit more difficult than I thought it would turn out to be. This swim, I used that to my tactic. Use the first 20 Ks just to get into my rhythm, let the guys catch me. The guys were riding really well though, so it was a tough bike. And on the run, it was brutal. Those stairs were bad, and so it was a tough course overall.
Here comes our women's winner down the finishing chute. It's been a long time between drinks for Paula Findlay. Let's see her savour it right now.
Congratulations, Paula.
Paula Findlay is our champion, 2017 Beijing International Triathlon. Well done, Paula. It's been a hell of a day for Paula to come back from that crash and still hold on to the win. And here is second place finisher, Lauren Goss, our 2015 champion. Maybe a little disappointed with that, but she hung tough. And what a brilliant race for China. Meng Yingzhong has held on for the podium. This is an incredible performance to see it come in against this quality field and take the third place.
That really shows the progress that's made by this country in multisport. A huge boost. She really hung tough all the way through. But it was Paula Findlay's day. 2 minutes 11:33, 3:05 ahead of Lauren Goss. Meng Yingzhong a further 2.5 minutes or so back. Jackie Thistleton, Annika Jenkins and Leanne Zito round out a great professional field.
Super happy to win. I haven't won a race in a while, so it feels good to cross the line first and grab the tape. And it's an honor to do it in Beijing, where the people have been so welcoming and friendly. So yeah, I'm very happy.
What a weekend it was. The 6th edition of the Beijing International Triathlon is in the books. 2 very deserving winners, 2 fantastic and well-run races as well. Congratulations to Henry Schumann and to Paula Findlay. They walk away $20,000 richer. And what a weekend it was overall.
Tremendous weekend, and congratulations to all the age groupers who managed to make it through a demanding but wonderful course.
Thank you also to our event and telecast sponsors, the Fung Thai government, who again put on a brilliant event, and to Beijing Capital Land. On behalf of Greg Bennett and the team, I am Will McClure. We will see you next year once again for the Beijing International Triathlon.
Drop